And we are back with the amazing Project Veritas Courageous Bold Whistleblowers. Joining me right now, a good group of them here for an incredible day at AMFEST here in Phoenix, Arizona. I want to highlight Kyle Seraphin. Kyle, thank you so much for joining us. This is your first time really announcing with Project Veritas that you were one of the insiders within the FBI. Tell everybody what you uncovered.
Well, I started off with a congressional whistleblowing in order to kind of keep the route of going to federal protection. But some of the things that I saw that we sent to Congress also ended up in the hands of Project Veritas, and that included a symbols guide for militia violent extremists and an election cheat sheet where the FBI said that they believed that misinformation and disinformation were federal crimes, which is absolutely false. It troubled people that I work with who are FBI attorneys. And so, we sent it to Congress, but it's also been published by Project Veritas, and that made it very public, which is a great thing.
And tell everybody, you've really faced a lot of hardships since coming forward. It hasn't been easy for you. You were let go, and also, you haven't been getting paid. So, and you can't get a job, right? So tell us a little bit about just what you've endured to make sure that the American people knew the truth of what was going on.
Sure. Well, it's our contention that the FBI is engaged in sort of like a political purge. They've gotten rid of people that all kind of have the same, general conservative beliefs and I would say almost libertarian beliefs that the Constitution should be protected for everybody and that we shouldn't have an ideological bent. That seems to be a problem if you're not footing the basic paces that the regime wants you to. In my case, I had my paycheck suspended officially on June 1st. My wife and I sold our house in mid-September in order to make sure that we could continue doing this thing and not be, financially burdened. And be able to do it as long as possible. And as you said, they actually believe that I'm an FBI employee without being paid. And so in theory, if I were to take another job, they would expect me to go get their permission to do so. It's my contention that I'm a former federal agent at this point. Once you stop paying somebody for 6 or 8 months, and I wasn't paid for most of January and all of February and a little bit of March as well. So once you get into that situation, it's hard to make the argument that I'm actually still an employee, but the FBI does sort of believe that.
Incredible bravery. Thank you so much for what you did. I want to also highlight Carrie Porch, CNN whistleblower, another one of the mainstream media whistleblowers that have come forward with Project Veritas. Carrie, tell us a little bit about your story.
Awesome. Thanks so much for having me on Real America's Voice and everything like that, April. But, mine was about three years ago. And, it was my dream job to work at CNN covering the White House and congressional things. And then I got to see that the news we saw was mostly manufactured, not reported. So, like Kyle and everybody on this couch here, I just noticed something and eventually I couldn't take it anymore and approached James O'Keefe and Veritas at a CPAC. And then 6 months later, we had enough to go to air. And like Kyle, I was immediately fired and looking for other things to do. But I sleep better at night now because this is what we have to do. And now we actually have an army of whistleblowers. This is only a portion of what you see on the couch. I think there's 2 or 3 times the amount of whistleblowers now for what we've all doing. Because, I was motivated by Eric Cochran. Some were motivated by my story, Google's Zach's story. Each one brings 1 or 2 into the fold, and that's what we're doing here to try to tell somebody if you do see something that it is okay to say something, we will take your story and run with it.
Thank you so much, Carrie. We're so grateful for you stepping out and just showing the people how much the mainstream media lies to its viewers.
Yes, it does.
And I want to pay special attention to one of the latest whistleblowers from Project Veritas. Go ahead and tell everybody your name and its Health and Human Services. You exposed what was going on with child trafficking.
Yes. Yeah, so I volunteered. I was a federal volunteer. I went to help what I believed was to place children in loving homes with loving families. And I discovered that the children don't know who they're going to. And so it's a very sad thing. I mean, I've watched children have panic attacks. They didn't want to go where we were sending them. And it was not very well received when I began to say, we have child trafficking here. One of the other whistleblowers who had come forward shared that there were transnational criminal organizations who were involved in the trafficking, and I saw that. And when I tried to bring that forward, they were not wanting to hear that and said that, hey, we have to move these children in 10 to 14 days, and instead of placing them in safe homes. And that didn't make sense to me. So I continued to press and press, which ultimately led to them saying they were going to investigate me. They brought security and walked me off the site.
So instead of investigating the people who are behind the trafficking, they're investigating a government employee who is trying to sound the alarm for the protection of children.
Yes, and so that's why I thank you, my fellow whistleblowers, for shining a light on these sorts of things and shining a light on government-sponsored, taxpayer-funded child trafficking.
Can you give us an update on anything that's happened? Do you know if they're doing any sort of investigation whatsoever from you coming forward?
Okay, well, that's a very good question. So thankfully, the Attorney General in Texas is taking this very seriously, and he has a human trafficking team that is going to start looking into this. We are hoping that other states come forward and start asking questions like, how many children have you sent to my state? Who are the sponsors of these children? Are those children still with those sponsors? Because the state of Texas, apparently, about only 30% of the children, or about 30%, are gone. They can't identify where they are, meaning HHS cannot say where these children are, which is unacceptable.
It absolutely. I'm so glad that Attorney General Ken Paxton is going to be investigating that. We'll be looking forward to updates. I know he does a great job of updating the public on what he does. Thank you so much for your bravery.
Thank you all.
Yes. Zach Vorhies, Google whistleblower. And Zach, it's incredible, your story, because you didn't have to come forward. You could have just stayed and had a really nice paying job at Google. But tell us again why you decided to sound the alarm on what Google was doing.
Look, what Google was doing was an existential threat to the whole United States. And I always thought of myself that, if the Nazis ever took power, I'd be one of the ones that would resist. And I thought that there would be a lot more people that would resist that sort of thing. But when it actually came down time to do that, it turns out that I seemed like I was the only one. And so I realized that if the American public didn't know that Google was lying about its political filtering and re-ranking, that we could just lose the whole system to an unelected group of technocrats that are seizing control of the information systems. And so I said, screw it, I don't care if I lose my life. We have to know about this, because if we don't, we're going to lose the whole thing. And so I decided to blow the whistle, and that's what I did.
And then you have a new platform. Tell us about your new platform.
Oh, yeah. So I got this video platform that gets by all the censorship. It allows you to skip the social media shuffle by collecting all of the censored people's information in real time once every hour, and then it centralizes it into one single place. It's called blast.video. It's the best place for news on the internet 24/7. And it's kind of like my thesis project on how to uncensor the internet. It's not about platforms, it's about people and using those platforms to connect to individual people. So that's just why we take in video from all these other websites.
Yeah, it's a great website. You guys should check it out for sure.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Zach. Appreciate all you do. Next up, Trevor Adams, ESPN whistleblower. Trevor, ESPN, owned by Disney. We've seen the egregious things that Disney has done just recently in the last couple of years. They're anti-family. Tell us a little bit about your story and why you spoke out against them.
So yes, blowing the whistle on ESPN and Disney, it was a decision I had to make, and I'm glad I did. ESPN and Disney champion themselves on diversity and inclusion and social justice, and on the inside, it's the opposite. They want to portray that they're all for it, but what my story exposed is quite the opposite. And at the end of the day, I'm a Disney employee, and what my story also uncovered is how Disney is not pro-family like they used to be. They're not pro-freedom. Disney sent the police to my house after bringing real issues to the table. They made accusations that I was going to shoot up the place because I came forward and I voted for Donald Trump. So I think hopefully this shed a light on these mega corporations like Disney and ESPN, and hopefully more come forward. And if you look at the news today, Disney's shooting themselves in the foot. They're doubling down, and it's shocking. A lot of people don't understand why. I think maybe Walt Disney would be rolling in his grave today to see that it's not really a family fun environment anymore. So.
Yeah, well, they're losing a lot of money too, and
Yes.
hopefully that will wake them up as well. That the American people don't want that garbage. Trevor, you're a true hero. Thank you so much
Thank
for
you.
standing up and doing the right thing. I'd like to kick it back to David and Ryan. David, you're the Hasbro whistleblower, and tell everybody a little bit about what you saw going on within the company.
Sure. So I am the Hasbro whistleblower. When I was working there for a short time, they wanted us to introduce critical race theory, CRT, into the children so that it could awaken their critical consciousness. And what that means is they want children to think in terms of race, sex, and gender, and judge other people based on those categories before considering who they are as people. And to me and my place of work, I wanted to work at a company that just supported children's imagination and supported their development. I didn't want to take part in something that would be effectively indoctrination. So I brought that story to Project Veritas, and they brought it the attention that it really deserved.
Thank you so much for using your voice and your platform to do good, and hopefully sending shockwaves through America and corporations. We appreciate all that you do. And you have a book coming out. Tell us about the book, please.
I do. I have a book about critical race theory, and it's halfway about explaining what it is in just general terms, because it's
Where can they buy it? We got to go to the main stage, so where can they get your book?
Okay. The book will be available in mid-2023. It'll be called DEI, Divide, Embezzle, Indoctrinate.
Awesome. Well, we'll be looking forward to hearing about that. We're going to be back with Ryan Hartwig in just a little bit, but now we're going to take it to the main stage.